Welcome back to the S&T podcast. Back in the second round of the college football playoffs, we got red and white versus red and white, as Cezanne said. Alabama against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Now, Indiana completely undefeated on the season, and Bama kind of got written off a little bit after the SEC championship. They had a bad loss to Georgia, -3 rushing yards, but came back, still made the playoffs. Again, debatable to some people, but that's neither here nor there at this point. They're in, they're past the first round. They took care of a team that they played earlier in the season, Oklahoma. Um, my dad always told me it's really hard to beat a team twice. And unfortunately for Oklahoma, they just so happened to get matched up with a team that they already beat that year in a really close one. Oklahoma started out great. Alabama came back, showed some grit, toughness, going up against Indiana in Pasadena. But we will see this week. But without further ado, let's hear what old Cezanne has to say.
Great intro there, Tom. Yes, we have a really cool matchup here. This is actually the first time these two teams have ever met in college football. I saw the stat when I was watching the college football show after all the matchups and whatnot. And yes, first time that the Hoosiers and the Crimson Tide have met on the gridiron. So we're seeing a first ever matchup. Very cool right there in itself. And of course, I mean, Indiana, just the story of the season. Last year, we saw them make the playoff, but, we saw them kind of get there because, it was a weak schedule and, they lost to all the teams that were actually better than them. They got beat down by Ohio State. They got beat down by Notre Dame in the first round. So, no one really believed in Indiana last year, even with the success they had. This year, this team is, I don't want to say completely different because they're right back where they were last year, but this team is completely different. Like, this is a team that you could see winning it all. Like, oh, this is a force to be reckoned with right here. Um, I don't know if people forgot, but Indiana not only beat Ohio State this year, but they also beat Oregon this year. They beat two of the best teams in this playoff already. So, I mean, all of my doubt, all of my criticism and doubt for this team went out the window when they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. That was the day that I lost all doubt in Indiana. I'm like, okay, this team is now on the level with Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama and teams like that. They're there. They're in the elite class now. I don't know how they did it so fast in 2 years, but I no longer doubt this team. So this team can do anything they want to do from this point on. If they want to win it all, I will not be surprised anymore because they have proven me wrong time after time after time this season. So no longer any doubts for the Indiana Hoosiers. So they can win this game. They can win this game by a lot. I don't know. Of course, on the other side, we have a team that we know everything about. We know everything about Alabama. We've seen this team be in this conversation for the last decade at least. Like, Alabama is that perennial contender that we see year after year after year after year. So, no surprises to see Alabama here, other than the fact that it's been an up and down season to get here. Losing to Oklahoma during the regular season, and then having a tough one against Auburn, barely escaped that. Got beat down by Georgia in the SEC championship. Like you said, a lot of people wrote them off at that point. Well, they come back and they avenged that loss to the Sooners, and they went on the road to Norman and beat them in the first round. Great game, a great win for Bama. They were able to come back after being down 17 early. So shout out to them for beating up on my Sooners. But they come into this game like we know everything about Bama. We're not surprised to see them here. I am just very excited to see what kind of game comes out of these two teams. Like, is this going to be like a defensive battle? Is this going to be a offensive showcase? Because we've seen Alabama put up points, we've seen Indiana put up points. We know both of these quarterbacks are really good, and these offenses can get going. They're both of them are really hard to stop. So I'm really curious to see what kind of game this is because I don't know. I think anything could happen in this game. I think Indiana could win by a blowout. I think Alabama could possibly win by a blowout. It's just like anything could happen in this game. I don't know. This could be a nail biter. This could be a shootout. I don't know. So I'm very excited to see what kind of game this is. Of course, it's in the probably the greatest stadium in sports, or at least in football, like the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. I mean, the scenery doesn't get any better than this. So this is going to be a game to remember. I think this is going to be a really good one. I can't pick against Indiana. Like I said before, I can't pick against them at this point because I've seen them slay the Giant twice now. I've seen them go to Oregon, slay the Giant. Ohio State, slay the Giant. So I'm not going to pick against David anymore. David done grew up. It's not little David no more. It's King David, okay? It's King David. He's a king now. And I'm going to take the Hoosiers. I can't pick against Kurt Signetti. He's the best coach in college football at this point, I believe. And I don't think Indiana's gonna be one and done in 2 consecutive seasons. I think Indiana's gonna find a way to win this one, and I think it's gonna be a deep playoff run for Indiana. I have them going all the way to the Natty. I think it's gonna be a rematch between Indiana and Ohio State in the Natty, but we're on the road there, and I don't think Indiana's gonna stop in the second round, first game for them. So, give me the Hoosiers. Probably be a close one, but like I said, this anything can happen in this matchup. I have no idea. So, Tom, what do you think about this matchup right here?
Yeah, basically, like you said, I mean, I don't know if I would say it's anything that could happen unless Indiana shows up with a different team than they have in their first 13 games. But again, we've talked about this before. You take a week off, but Indiana's had bye weeks, 2 bye weeks throughout the season. This bye week's a little different. But you also look at Bama. What we talked about this with Bama versus Oklahoma. What Bama team is going to show up? Is it going to be the Bama team from the SEC championship that can't run the ball and just gets shut down? And then what we saw when Alabama played Oklahoma was Alabama, they kind of let Oklahoma drive down the field. Like they let them dink and dunk. Like they weren't allowing a lot of like their main goal on defense, you could tell, was no big plays. No big plays. Period. So this week it's like I don't know because Alabama can't do that against Indiana because that's what Indiana does really well. So you look at Alabama and Indiana here, it's like, well, what Alabama team is going to show up? Because if Alabama has to rely on the passing game from Ty Simpson, I don't think they win the game. But if they can establish a run game, which again, we don't know what team is going to show up because in the last 2 games, we have -3 rushing yards versus I don't know how many they got against Oklahoma, but it was a solid amount. Like it wasn't -3. So it depends what team shows up. And then also Indiana's defense is solid. They don't. The only thing Alabama has over Indiana, I would say, is probably the level of natural talent on the field, because Alabama has still consistently been getting recruits the same way that they did with Nick Saban. Maybe not as many, I should say, but they've been getting they have Alabama has no problems getting 5 stars is basically what I'm saying. So Alabama is going to have a lot of 5 stars. Indiana doesn't have a single 5 star on their roster. So that's going to be a big like it could be a big factor, I guess I should say. It's not a guarantee that it's going to be, but when you look at the game, it's like, okay, Alabama is still Alabama. They still made the playoffs. They're here now. It's the final 8, and so it doesn't matter what seed it is to teams like Alabama. Indiana is probably still looking at themselves as the 1 seed. They're undefeated. They don't know what it's like to lose yet. Um, but Alabama, it's like they've tasted defeat. And I think honestly that SEC championship loss was probably the best thing that could have happened to Alabama because that made them get really serious. They understood. They go, oh, there's teams that are better than us if we don't play at the top of our level. So I think Alabama's going to come into this game with that mindset because Alabama knows Indiana's technically number one, and we got the poop kicked out of us by Georgia. And we've already lost to Oklahoma once in the year. We're lucky we beat them because we were down 17-0 against Oklahoma. Like it's like I think Alabama is the most hungry team. Like they're the most aware team that they know they need to do better. Like they've consistently needed to do better. And they understand that they made the playoffs after getting blown out, which is, again, another conversation for another day. But they're here now playing Indiana. I think Alabama is going to come out and punch them in the mouth, play a solid game. But really, to me, what this game is going to come down to, after all that, long story short, if Alabama drops back and tries to play the same defense they did against Oklahoma, Indiana's going to march down the field, take 5 to 8 minute drives, and score 3 to 7 points every time. And if Alabama can't run the ball, they are screwed. But again, what Alabama team are we going to see? If we see the Alabama team we saw last week, give me Alabama, honestly, because there's something about undefeated teams when they have a week off, they just, for some reason, they come out flat. And it's always the underdog that shouldn't be there. They come out swinging and they punch them in the mouth. This might be a Miami Texas A&M first round game, in my opinion. This might be a 13-10, 14-7, 17-10 type of game. So, but honestly, give me Bama.
You know, you were talking about which team's fans were going to show up for this game. Well, I'll tell you one thing I do know, Tom. There's going to be a lot of red in the stands. I'll tell you that. Should be a good amount of red in the stands. I know that for sure.
And it just depends on what tint.
which state name will be on that on those red uniforms? I don't know. But there will be a lot of red in the stands for this game for sure. So and you also talked about something interesting I wanted to follow up on. Yes, I think really the only advantage that Alabama has over Indiana in this game is the talent, the pure raw talent, as you said, on the field. Yes, Alabama, of course, is probably going to have the better recruits. You know, they're going to have 5 stars, 4 stars, every position, right? Indiana, you said they don't even have one 5 star, which I'm very surprised to hear. I mean, 2 years into it, I would think they would have like at least one 5 star by now.
On defense.
Oh, on defense. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I was gonna say, hey, it don't matter. We got the Heisman Trophy winner, so that's all that matters. We got the Heisman Trophy winner on our team. So, yes, Alabama might have the talent advantage, and that will probably keep them in this game. Yes. Indiana has every other advantage, I would say. I mean, Indiana's got the coaching advantage. They got the better offense, I would say. They got a better defense, I would say. They have the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, a top 5 draft pick in next year's draft right now. Indiana is just no slouch. I mean, they might not have the pure raw in talent that some of these other schools have, but obviously these boys can play. So after you beat Ohio State, I don't care what kind of talent you have, you are for real. Okay, it don't matter if you got 2 stars, 3 stars. If you beat Ohio State, you're for real. So Indiana, I think they have a lot going for them, especially the coaching. I mean, I've talked about Kalen DeBoer before. I'm not a I don't want to say I'm not a big fan, but like I just don't like the way he conducts himself during games. Like even then in this last game against Oklahoma, like this guy was absolutely losing his mind on the sideline. I think a lot of people saw that. He looks unstable. He looks emotionally unstable. I don't know how you could be that as a head football coach. I don't know, but if it works for him, it works for him. But I'm not the biggest fan of Kellen DeBoer. I don't know if he's got some anger issues or something. I don't know, but when it comes to the X's and O's, I'm sure he's great. But being a head coach of a college football team is more than just X's and O's, and you have to conduct yourself on the sideline in a stoic and a leadership way. And I don't think he does that all the time. So on the other side, we have a guy that absolutely does that. I mean, he doesn't get any more stoic and leader and just like he is the father of that football team, Mr. Kurt Signetti. Like that is the godfather. He's the one that sets the tone. He's the one that keeps them in line, that keeps them motivated, keeps their heads in the game. Like you can see it. You can see it with the way he is just his presence is known on the sideline. Like he is the guy. And just polar opposites, honestly. Like when you see Kalen on his sideline losing his mind, you're going to see Kurt on his sideline just staring with no expression whatsoever because this guy is serious and he is about his business at all times. So Kurt Signetti, shout out to you. Best coach in college football. I mean, I don't even think it's even a conversation anymore at this point. But I'm just very excited for this game. I think it's going to be a really good one. I can't wait to see how these two teams match up against each other. I think it's going to be like one of those games. It's going to be like a heavyweight fight, like where they feel each other out for the first couple rounds, and then they start swinging on each other as the rounds go deeper. So can't wait for this. I mean, honestly, it could go either way, but give me the Hoosiers. I just don't think that Alabama is going to go too deep into this playoff. I don't think they're good enough, and I don't trust their coach, as I've said. And I think they are running. I think they're running on borrowed time at this point. I think they're on borrowed time. Indiana, I see them going very deep. So, give me the Hoosiers and the Rose Bowl. First meeting ever between these two schools. Going to be a really good one.